Snow fell in thick, suffocating sheets as Tom drove the family SUV through the mountain pass. The storm had come out of nowhere, blanketing the road and turning their trip to his parents' house into a slow, treacherous crawl. "Are we close yet?" Jake asked from the back seat, his 7-year-old voice tinged with impatience. "Almost there," Tom lied, his eyes fixed on the faint outline of the road. The GPS on Linda's phone blinked in and out of signal, and the forest surrounding them loomed dark and silent. Suddenly, the SUV jolted, and the engine sputtered. Tom wrestled with the wheel as the car rolled to a stop. "What's wrong?" Linda asked, her voice tight. "Engine trouble. Great." Tom sighed, pulling on his coat. "Stay here. I'll check it out." He stepped into the biting cold and popped the hood. Inside the car, Linda tried to keep the kids calm, but a movement in the trees caught her attention. A figure, dressed in red and white, was standing at the edge of the woods. "Tom," she said, her voice barely audible. Tom turned and saw it too. At first, it looked like someone in a Santa suit, but the longer he stared, the less human it seemed. The figure tilted its head as though observing them. "Do you need help?" Tom called, gripping the tire iron from the trunk. The figure raised a gloved hand and pointed directly at the car. "Tom, get back here," Linda shouted, locking the doors. Tom backed toward the SUV, his breath visible in the freezing air. The figure didn't move, but its presence was oppressive, like the storm itself had taken shape. "The engine's dead," Tom said as he climbed back inside. "We're not staying here. There's a cabin up the road. I saw it on the map earlier. We'll walk." Bundling the kids in their warmest coats, they trudged into the storm. Tom led the way, gripping the tire iron like a lifeline. Linda held Jake's hand, while Maggie clung to her other arm. The snow was blinding, and the wind howled like a living thing. "Do you hear that?" Jake asked, his voice trembling. At first, Tom dismissed it as the wind, but then he heard it too. The faint, rhythmic jingling of bells. "It's just the storm," Linda said quickly, though her eyes darted to the woods. The sound grew louder, circling them. Suddenly, a laugh, deep and guttural, cut through the storm. "Keep moving," Tom ordered, quickening his pace. Ahead, the outline of a small cabin appeared through the swirling snow. Relief washed over them as they stumbled onto the porch. Tom forced the door open and they piled inside, slamming it shut behind them. The cabin was cold and abandoned, its single room filled with broken furniture and dust. Linda lit an old lantern they found on a shelf, its flickering light casting eerie shadows on the walls. "Do you think it's safe here?" Linda asked. Tom peeked through the frosted window. The figure was standing at the edge of the clearing, motionless, its sack slumped on the ground. "I don't think he's going to leave us alone," Tom said. The jingling of bells started again, closer now. A heavy thud echoed against the door. "Daddy, he's here," Maggie whispered. "We have to go. Now." Tom grabbed the tire iron and flung the door open. The figure was gone, but his footprints led back toward the woods. They bolted out of the cabin, retracing their path toward the SUV. The storm seemed to grow wilder with every step. Jake tripped, falling into the snow. "Jake!" Linda cried, pulling him to his feet. The jingling bells surrounded them, and another laugh echoed through the trees. The sound of heavy footsteps followed them, growing louder and closer. "There's the car!" Tom shouted. They reached the SUV and Tom shoved the family inside before climbing in himself. His hands shook as he turned the key. The engine roared to life on the first try, as if nothing had ever been wrong. "Go! Go!" Linda cried, holding the kids close. The SUV lurched forward, tires spinning briefly before gripping the icy road. Tom glanced in the rearview mirror, but there was nothing behind them except the storm. As they drove away, Maggie turned to look out the back window. In the distance, barely visible through the swirling snow, she saw the outline of the figure again. It stood motionless, slowly fading into the storm, as if the shadows themselves swallowed it whole.